Okay, next news topic. We're going to be talking about Helldivers 2. It dropped this week, and we didn't actually get to see the game prior to launch. We saw it on launch day. Trepidation going in with this one, but yesterday myself, Alex, and John teamed up to play some Helldivers 2, and I think, John, we were kind of happy with that experience. It was fun.
Yeah, for what it's exactly the type of game that you would expect it to be. Uh, it's sort of building on what they did in that original and move the camera down closer to the action. And yeah, it's interesting. The thing that I keep seeing, I've been seeing this sentiment around because this is like a week after Suicide Squad came out. And there's this sentiment that like, wait, everybody was mad at Suicide Squad for being or like a live service game, but they're not mad about Helldivers 2. And I've been finding this extremely confusing where it's just like, it's an expectation thing, right? Like, you know, Rocksteady has known for extremely polished, beloved single player games. And then they shifted to this type of thing. And I can see why people would be upset versus Helldivers, where it's like, well, it's just more Helldivers, right? It's like, this is what you expect. I kind of look at it like if Nintendo announced that the next Zelda was an extraction shooter with live service elements, the outcry would be gigantic. And it's because that's not what people expect or want from that team. And that's really what it is. Like, you can't just look at games as like an even thing. It's like you're taking into account who's working on it, what types of games have been made in the past. It's okay to be disappointed by that stuff, I think. In the end, though, Helldivers 2 is just it's exactly what it says in the tin, and I feel like there's not going to be anybody disappointed by it from that perspective because they wouldn't have expected anything else. Considering what it is, I think it's well executed. It's a straightforward sort of extraction shooter with the tongue firmly planted in cheek. There's lots of democracy going on in there and freedom and the super Earth stuff, which I found humorous though, because, by just calling it super Earth and you're fighting for Earth suggests that somehow everyone on Earth has managed to coalesce into a singular entity that agrees on something. Which I think is extreme fantasy.
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
The likes of David Icke have been warning us about this for years.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Sorry, I don't have an answer for that.
That was Alexa.
That was Alexa. That's great.
Yeah.
That was very apropos.
But so we actually did crossplay, didn't we? We had PS5 versus two PCs.
Yes, I had RTX 3060 playing at 1440p on ultra quality. I would say reconstruction, but it's not reconstruction. It's just spatial upscaling. And ultra settings couldn't quite hack it. High couldn't quite hack it. I think it's going to be basically absolutely fine at 1080p on that class of hardware. Alex, when your computer wasn't crashing, you were on the 4090, right?
I was on the 4090 ultra settings, targeting 4K 120. Like Rich, you kind of had to go for sub-native there, 4K to get 120. So the thing is, like, the game is heavy, I would say, on the GPU side of things. And I think that bears out in the what we saw on PlayStation 5, which John can talk about in a second. But the options there were some good options there to turn off things like anti-aliasing, as well as a variety of knobs to pull forward and down, to like adjust the quality of certain things. But one thing that was sorely missing, I thought, was it looked like the scaler that they had that could go down to like ultra performance up to ultra quality, and it was named after like the FSR1 presets, and it honestly to me looks like FSR1, but just maybe like not explicitly labeled as such. Is that there was no DLSS, no XCSS, and no FSR2, and in a game like this one, I think it would have been really great because the image did break up quite a bit, even at a high resolution on PC. I felt. So I think that's the one thing that's currently missing from the PC release. I didn't notice any, stuttering or anything like that. It actually seemed solid. It looked like a smooth experience. It was just pretty heavy on the GPU in some scenes.
Yeah, FSR1 shades of shimmer
Yeah.
we saw when we first took a look at that. John, you played on PlayStation 5, which is obviously going to be it's a Sony game. It's going to be a focus there. What did you think of that port?
Well, as we said in that play session, the thing that surprised me is that it's actually stable. The trailers pre-release were all very unstable. They're targeting 60, but they never looked very smooth. And the final release, shockingly, is pretty much a locked 60 across the board, with just an occasional dip to like 57 in very busy scenes. But otherwise, it's completely stable. But there is a quality and a performance mode. And the performance mode, based on preliminary counts, seems to be 1080p. It seems like it's fixed 1080p, actually. And curiously, when you switch to performance mode, that also applies to the HUD. So all the text UI elements also become 1080p. So you get blurrier text versus the quality mode, which renders it at 4K. So it is odd. They just shift the whole thing to the straight 1080p. And it seems to be just using like TAA with FSR1, I think it looks like, or some sort of spatial upscaler with the sharpness slider, which there is a sharpness slider in this game. You can also disable motion blur. There's also an anti-aliasing on and off option
On the console.
but you can't turn off the TAA aspect, I think, because that seems to be forced. But
Interesting.
it's a weird
So
one.
what is AA then? If the TAA is on, all the
I think
time?
it
Is
might-
like some sort of CAS thing.
I think it might just be FSR or something.
Right. Okay.
Oh gosh.
I haven't looked closely enough. This is just preliminary impressions kind of thing, but that's the impression I got from it. It needs
look
to be
forward
looked
to
at more
seeing
closely.
this.
But yeah, image quality is not amazing. It's pretty soft. But again, they went for 60, and I'd rather have a stable locked 60 than higher res in that case. So I think it works okay. The game is, I would say, handsome, but not like stunning. And
No, I think that's fair.
Right.
Yeah. It gets the
like,
job done.
It looks
looks
good.
fine.
good.
It looks good. It's got good
Yeah.
animation. There's like pretty nice materials. The worlds look good. There's some nice lighting and volumetrics here and there. Even the water looks pretty good. Like the water SSR is better than it usually is for games with SSR water.
Yes.
Better than Starfield. Doesn't have SSR on water.
Oh, Alex.
I know.
But so yeah, that's it's interesting. We did have fun though playing in multiplayer. This is not something I would likely stick with, but it is fun to play with others once in a while, I could see. So
Yeah. The level design was the thing that kind of like, it's just like the levels we were dropped in twice were kind of like open.
I think it is proc gen in the end.
yeah, it
'cause
looks
it
sick.
was that way in the original, it turns out.
Okay, so yeah, that's like the one thing. So if you've played some extraction shooters, some have very like dedicated level design,
Which I like.
which I quite like. Like that's why I like Dark Tide. Dark Tide has they're just levels that you always return to, the same ones. But this year it was a little bit more open and a little bit more like, I don't know, but you still had objectives to do, and they were all different depending upon what you're doing. And they did require some sort of co-op stuff, like the one you did. Someone had to pay attention to like something while you were turning a valve, for example. That's kind of fun.
I think it's just Starship Troopers, the game, really, isn't it? Right down to the sort of fascist overlord government that you are doing the dirty work for. But it's great fun, and the tongue-in-cheek nature of that was actually very, very entertaining. There was, as is common in this type of game, there are numerous sort of emergent comedic elements that just happened. Like, John getting... we sort of summoned the flag of justice.
Oh yeah.
And John just got killed by it as it landed.
Yes, it came straight down from the heavens right onto me. Say, hey, where you guys at? Well, that was after you killed me, and then you didn't know how to revive me. And then you revived me, and I ran over to where you were, and then you summoned the flag, and the flag came down and killed me again.
That's great. Yeah, a lot of friendly fire incidents in this game.
Yeah,
Is what
a
we
lot of
discovered.
emergent elements of comedy in there for sure,
Yes,
which
yes.
just add to the entertainment factor. And yeah, gunning down those bugs, it's great fun. It's really well represented. I think it is very much like Starship Troopers, and it captures that element really, really well. I think they've done a great job with it. It is not a sort of AAA extravaganza. It's just good good fun. It's was priced relatively cheaply as well, I believe.
Yeah, it is.
So
It is
yeah, I
under
mean,
$70
it's good
release.
stuff. Alex, you were going to take a look at this. Is it worth us doing a complete video on it, or maybe we should just do something a little bit more lighthearted?
I think we should probably do the lighthearted
I
thing
agree.
and then talk about the things that we want changed about it. Like, I would like to see DLSS in there. I think the image
that
quality
is a
would just be
glaring
better.
omission because the image quality, it's really not great in some scenarios. Yeah.
Yeah, stuff like that. And then, and also just hammer down, make sure we got like 100% on like the res counts and also the options there on console. Like seeing what the anti-aliasing option does is actually a good thing to make sure we get out there.
Okay, fair enough. But yeah, Helldivers 2, it is recommended. We did have fun, and we shall have more on it soon, hopefully.